Got the story of Yosef and the brothers over here. And the first thing is that, again, I told you, put away Yosef in what's it called, the Technicolor coat and all that other nonsense that you've probably been exposed to at one point or the other. We don't even know that it had a lot of colors, by the way. It doesn't say. Only one of the commentaries mentions that the coat was a coat of many colors. That's how it's always taught, but it doesn't. Most of the commentaries don't even mention that. So let's take a look. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei avi be'eretz Canaan. Yaakov Avinu was dwelling in the land of his father, the land of Canaan. And Rashi brings down over here that that Yaakov Avinu is dwelling in tranquility. Now, look what has just happened to Yaakov Avinu. He has survived Lavan. He survived Esav. He survived Lavan. His sons wiped out the entire town of Shechem, and all the enemies were neutralized. It says none of them attacked him as the Jewish people passed through, even though they're midrashim that they went to war. But the plain meaning is nobody. He had no. With all this trouble around him, he made it through. Where does his aggravation start? When there's jealousy in the home, in his own home, it starts. With the enemy from Esav, an enemy of Lavan, and an enemy of what he called the anti-Semites all around him in Shechem. And all that he manages to get through unscathed, almost unscathed, except the incident with Dinah, and he gets through it. And all of a sudden, when there's jealousy is unleashed in his home, that's when the trouble starts. Which is like, no, there's no fight like a good domestic fight. You know, there's certain families that are always involved in drama. There's always somebody who's not talking to somebody. And without that, they just can't get along. Think of that oxymoron. They can't get along unless they're not talking to each other. So the trouble starts in the home. That's what causes the home to deteriorate. So it says, Eila toldos Yaakov Yosef. These are the offspring of Yaakov Yosef. Rashi brings down the reason Yaakov has offspring at all is because of Yosef, meaning that he went off to Lavan in order to get married, in order to marry Rachel, which would have produced Yosef. And in the end, it got sidetracked, and there was a Leah and a Bilhah and a Zilpah, which is where everybody else came from. So really, the offspring of Yaakov is indirectly related to Yosef. Yosef ben Shva'esrei Shona, he's 17 years old. Hayeroeh esachav batzon. He was a shepherd with his brothers. Unares b'nei Bilhah ves b'nei Zilpah nashei aviv, and he was a companion of the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. Vayave Yosef es dibasam ra'el avim. Yosef brought a negative report to his father. Now, you got to understand, Yosef is 17 years old. He's basically, he's caught between the brothers. He doesn't have a mother because Rachel has died, last week's Parsha. And what's interesting is that you're going to see that he's a nar. Now, what's a nar? How does the Hebrew word nar?
Snitch.
No, that's not a snitch. That's a nar is what we would call an adolescent. A lad, an adolescent. In England, they call them the lads, right? And in where we come from, we call them adolescents, which carries, by the way, a negative connotation. Adolescent simply means a teenager. Teenager is like teenager. When you hear the word teenager, you think just, a little meshuggah. When you hear the word adolescent, you think a little criminal activity. That's how. But neither of them means it's just a word, just describing an age. So Yosef is a nar. The word nar comes from the word lidna'er. Lidna'er means to empty out. Lidna'er means to empty it out. A young person is empty still. A young person is empty. He hasn't got wisdom. He hasn't absorbed wisdom. Now Yosef is Yaakov's main disciple, and he's absorbed the Torah. The commentaries even say that when it says that he was shepherding his brothers, it means Yaakov taught him the Torah and Yosef taught it to the brothers. That's what the Medrash says. But at the end of the day, he's a nar. We'll see what the significance of that is in a second. And so it says, Vayave. Now watch this. Vayave Yosef es dibasam ra elavim. There are three questions in this pasuk. First of all, Yosef brings a negative report about the brothers. What is a negative report? Number one, he says that the brothers are involved in what's called Aver min hachai. Aver min hachai means they're taking the limbs off of a living animal, which you're not allowed to, is one of the Noachide prohibitions. Number two, it says that they're involved in immorality. And number three, that they are tormenting the other brothers the sons of the maidservants, that they're calling them slaves, and they're terminated. So he brings these three reports back, and there's a whole discussion about exactly what he saw and why he said it and what was really going on here. Now, it's just very interesting. There are three problems in this pasuk. A, once he tells us he's 17 years old, why does it have to tell us he's a nar? We know, by definition, if you're 17, you're a nar. Number two, why does it say Vayove Yosef es di basam ra? Yosef brings a bad report. Why does it say Vayesaper? Vayesaper means he tells over. You bring a bad report. I'm bringing you a bad report. I'm giving you a verbal information. You would say somebody brought you the information, or somebody told you the information. Somebody told you the information. So why did it say Vayove Yosef as di basam ra? You understand? You say Vayesaper, not Vayove, right? Why would it say Vayove? He brought it. And number three, it says to their father. What's the problem with that? Yeah, his father too, El Aviv. Why is it his father? Why their father? He brought the bad report to their father, and brought the report to his father. Okay. So one of the Farshim says like this. You see, Yosef he's got to bring a bad report. You know that when it comes to Lashon Hara, are you ever allowed to say something negative about somebody? There's sometimes where it's a mitzvah. Sometimes you have to say it. But there are rules about saying something you bring a negative report. You're not allowed to just gossip and slander people for no reason. That's called Lashon Hara, and that's a severe avera. But there are certain times where if it's for a clear, it's what's called litoelis. Litoelis means that it's for a benefit. There's a clear benefit. I'm telling you this because you need to know. Because you'll be able to do something about it and correct them. So Yosef is bringing a report to Yaakov Avinu in order to be able to correct the brothers. So there are rules. Number one, you're not allowed to exaggerate. And number two, really you have to tell people off yourself unless you feel you're not capable, because they won't accept it from you. And number three, there can be no benefit in it for you. So the first thing it tells us, he's a nar. He's a nar. The emphasis is that Yosef is telling us, why didn't Yosef tell his brothers off himself? Because he felt they won't accept it from him because he's a nar. Number one. Number two, there's no exaggeration. Vayove, he brought the information exactly as it was. Vayesaper means, he told it over, and then you might throw in a few details over there. But people embellish a little bit. And number three, to their father. In other words, if it would have said he brought it to his father, it's maybe he wants to get in good with his father, which makes it look like there's personal benefit. It's avihem. He's telling it to their father so their father could do something about it. That means Yosef is fulfilling all the criteria necessary in order to bring it up. To embellish or exaggerate, people ask, is it permissible according to halacha to exaggerate? Are you allowed according to halacha to exaggerate? So what does it depend on? Peace. What? Certainly to maintain peace. But it also depends if you're changing facts or if it's figure of speech. I don't know if I ever told you guys, I was about 4 years ago, there were two Arabs started up with me, and I managed I put them both in the hospital. So I'm just exaggerating. It wasn't 4 years ago, it was 2 days ago. It wasn't two Arabs, it was one little old lady. And I didn't put them in the hospital. She hit me over the head with her purse, right? But I just embellished a little bit, right? So when you embellish, it's a lie. That's an absolute lie. If it was figure of speech, we even find that in the Gemara. But I told you 1,000,000 times, don't exaggerate. So you know that when I said 1,000,000, I didn't mean 1,000,000. That type of exaggeration is permissible. It's figure of speech exaggeration. To embellish and change the facts is not true. And if you do that when you're speaking negative about somebody, even for a beneficial purpose, then you shouldn't have been speaking. And if there's something in it for you, I'm going to say, hey, really, this guy did something wrong, and I'm going to tell the boss, because this guy's been, I see that he doesn't come to work on time, and he's cutting corners over here. I'm going to tell the boss. But the really reason is because I want this guy to lose his job because I want that position. Then I'm not allowed to say it because there's something in it for me. And I'm certainly not allowed to exaggerate. Yeah, go ahead.
What if the exaggeration is to make it seem better? Say you have to tell your boss about somebody, but you don't want him to lose his job. So you make it seem that he's doing it a little bit.
That is a very tricky thing because that comes up in shidduchim all the time. And in shidduchim, people tend to exaggerate. And the problem is that if you exaggerate, you could create trouble by exaggerating something good. Let's say there's a girl, a father calls up. This happens all the time. He asks about a certain boy in the yeshiva. Does this boy daven? Does he make it to minyan on a regular basis? Now you know for him a regular basis is about 12% of the time. You say, yeah, he's a regular minyan goer. Then they get married, and the girl who is expecting a husband who can get up and go to minyan every day, and now he's missing minyan, and then they have a big fight, and the big fight could spiral out of control. They could end up getting divorced. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? That's the fault. I even know of a case, a true case. A guy calls up a Rosh Yeshiva. This happens all the time. Rosh Yeshivas, Rebbeim, they're called. And he calls up the Rosh Yeshiva, and he says to the Rosh Yeshiva, see, you're allowed to soften it a little bit. You don't have to use, it's like the famous story they say is, they ask, does the boy smoke? They smoke cigarettes. They smoke cigarettes. So you say, well, listen, let's put it this way. If I needed to bum a cigarette, he's not the first guy I would go to. Okay, so then you told him he smokes, but you're trying. They had a little bit of that you could do in shidduchim, that sort of thing. But to change the facts is very, very dangerous. So this guy calls up the Rosh Yeshiva and he wants to know about a certain boy. He's a good learner, and he says, I got one question. His father says, is he honest? Is he straight? Is he a straight, what they call ehrlich? So Yeshiva starts hemming and hawing. He goes, well, he's, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily his strongest feature. So he says, listen, this is my daughter we're talking about. Is he an honest boy? And I says, well, to tell you the truth, he's kind of coy and deceptive. He's actually very deceptive, and he's cunning and deceptive. So the father goes, great, because my daughter is cunning and deceptive and dishonest. I need somebody who's going to run circles around her. And the couple got married, lived happily ever after. Right? Now, what would have happened if the Rosh Hashanah said, yeah, he's straight, he's honest? Oh, that's not free. You just blew the shit up. You understand? So you have to, when it comes to shidduch, you ask a direct question. If it's a general question, so you get a general answer. So, hey, does the boy go to minyan? Yes. Because that's true no matter how many times he goes to minyan. Does he get there over 85% of the time? That he'll give you a direct, no, in my estimation. I never had problems with my kids' shidduchim asking direct pointed questions. I got direct, clear, very clear pointed answers. But you have to know how to ask it. Here, Yosef obeys all the rules. Now, watch this. You know the story, right? You know how the story unfolds over here? There's going to be the brothers are going to get jealous, and they sell him, and he goes off to Egypt. Now, watch what happens here. Hold for 1 second. Just hold, Alicia, do me a favor. Hold the question until about a quarter or two, because I want to get through. There's a lot of stuff to get through here. If you understand how the story unfolds, Yosef brings a negative report on the brothers. Now, how did the brothers take it? Not well. Okay, the brothers take it not well. They make a mistake. Yosef makes a mistake Yosef brings a report with best intentions, but he made a mistake in reading what they were doing. He had good intentions, but he didn't understand what he thought was the limbs off the living animal and immorality, and he didn't understand. He made a mistake in judging their behavior, but he had good intentions. They made a mistake because they thought he had bad intentions. Yaakov Avinu made a mistake because he favored him among the other brothers. And then Yosef made a mistake by telling his brother the dreams. And then the brothers, Yaakov makes a mistake by sending Yosef off to the brothers. So it's a comedy of errors. It's one mistake after another mistake after another mistake and after another mistake, and then what ends up happening, God's plan comes out exactly the way he wants it to. After one mistake, another mistake, yet God's plan comes out. The brother Yosef goes to Egypt, the brothers go to Egypt, they bow down to Yosef, the Jewish people are going to exile, which is all God's plan to begin with. And the lesson over there is that God's plan is going to come out one way or another. That means he'll try to get me, I told you, God could try to get me from here to that door. Now, Well, the first thing he tries is I see a $1 bill lying on the ground by the door. I'm not going to get up in the middle of Shiur to get a $1 bill. Do I hear 5? Right? I'm not going to get up in Shiur to pick up a $1 bill. So, but Hashem wants me by that door for some reason. So the next thing happens is I say, Tamid, can you open the window over here? So Tamid opens up the window. And the next thing I see is that there's a German shepherd coming through the window. Do you think that'll get me to the door? Oh, boy, you wouldn't believe how fast, right? So one way or another is going to get me to the door. The God's plan is going to work out even if you make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake, he'll just make an adjustment and move you over here this way, and he'll move you that way. Well, one way that plan is going to come out. There's an unbelievable, it's a remarkable Gemara. The Gemara says, remember I told you the Gemara says with Shaul HaMelech, King Saul. Now listen carefully. King Saul, before he became Shaul HaMelech, so his father lost some donkeys. You know, so maybe we should open up and get a little bit of air now where we go. Just make sure no German shepherds there. Just a little bit of air. So the Gemara in Bracha says like this. The Gemara says that the story in the Nach is that King Shaul HaMelech, thank you, King Shaul HaMelech, his father lost some donkeys. This is before he was the king. So Shaul goes, he takes his attendant, and they go searching for these donkeys for about 3 days. And at a certain point, they haven't found the lost donkeys. So they realize they're in the same town. They're very near where Shmuel Hanavi, the prophet Samuel, lives. So they decide to go ask the prophet. Those days you could ask, the prophet was good. You know, you go to the prophet, get a tip on the market, find out what's going to happen in the Bears game tomorrow. You know, it's a good thing. Get the point spread. You know, you go to the Navi. So he, what do you call it? By the way, the Bears are playing the Packers. Say, Davin, Bears Ben Chicago, right? They should win. So what do you call it? So he's going to what do you call it? The Packers are like the White Sox of football. The Packers are the villains of the NFL. So he's going to the Navi Shmuel, and on the way they see a whole group of girls comes walking past. So they said to the girls, "Where does this prophet live? Where is the Roa, the Heichan HaRoa? The Roa is the seer, the Navi." They say to this group of girls, this whole group of girls, "Where's the prophet?" So the girls, instead of giving an address and saying Yashar Yashar Yamina, the girls take some 3 sentences. They say, "Well, on a certain day, he goes up there and they have a sacrifice. I got to give him a whole drasha." And the Gemara says, why did they have to go on? So why so long? What took them by 3 sentences to go? All you had to say is 6508. Why did they give them a whole 3 sentences? So the Gemara gives 3 reasons. The Gemara says, number 1, women are talkative. Nashim dabranio saying, women talk. So whatever a man says, whatever it takes a man to say in a word, will take a woman 3 sentences. Number 2, because Shaul was tall and handsome. And they wanted to extend it a little bit so they could look at Shaul. So they took their time. And number 3, because up until, well, remember, when he gets to Shmuel Hanavi, what's going to happen is Shmuel's going to say to him, forget about the donkeys. They were already found. I got different news for you. You're king. And then he's going to anoint him with oil. He's going to anoint him as the king of the Jewish people. That anointing has to take place at exactly 11 o'clock. If he gets there at 1 minute to 11, not time yet, because up until 11 o'clock, it has been predestined that Shmuel is going to be the ruler. Not a king, literally, but he's the leader of the Jewish people. The new leader doesn't take over, and one leadership, one reign, does not encroach on another reign, the Gemara says, not even by a hair's breadth. It's not 1 minute to 11 o'clock. So there's got to be a delay over here. What's the delay? These girls drag them out. So the question then becomes, so which one is it? Is it because they're talkative, because they want to look at him, or is it because they're getting because of the you don't want one reign encroaching on another? So which one is it? Why do you need 3 reasons in the Gemara? You heard the question. Which one? Well, which one is it? What do you need 3 reasons for? 1 reason is sufficient. The answer is that there are 3 different, what's the word? What's that? Not time zones, 3 different mechanisms in the running of the world. There is nature, what we call nature. There's free choice. And there's Hashgacha Pratis, God's supervision. Now, nature kicks in over here because women by nature are talkers. Free choice is they choose to look at Sheol. And God's supervision is to make sure that it doesn't happen before 11 o'clock. So it always looks like everything's operating independently. At the end of the day, with all these different mechanisms of the running of the world, but God is having everything it come to one result. And that's what happens over here. You have a mistake, and you have another mistake, and another mistake, and another mistake, and at the end of the day, there it is. So it says, Yosef and then 4 lines from the top. V'Yisrael ahaves Yosef mikol banov ki ben zekunim hulo. Ve'asa lo ksones pasim. Yisrael loved Yosef more than the other sons because he's a ben zekunim, he's a son of his old age. One opinion is that he's a Talmid Chacham. He taught him the Torah. There's another opinion that they looked alike and that everything that happened to Yaakov happened to Yosef. He had a brother who hated him. He had brothers who hated him. He had Rashi brings down 3 or 4 examples here.
He did 17 years in Mizraim.
Wait, 1 second. Where is it? 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second, Alicia. 1 second. I actually get paid for this sometimes. Here. Look at the top left column. Look at the top of left column. Second line from the top. See that in Rashi? V'chol ma she'ir liYaakov ir liYosef. Everybody see that on page 198, left column, second line from the top. Left column 198. Everybody got that? Okay. Mashi'ir Yaakov ir Yosef. What happened to Yaakov happened to Yosef. If you see it, please show the person next to you. Zenistam and Zenistam. This one was hated and this one was hated. Ze achiv mevakesh lahorgo. This one's brothers wanted to kill him. V'ze achav mevakesh. This one's brothers wanted to kill him. V'chein harbe bebereshis rabba. There are a lot of other comparisons between Yaakov and Yosef. Okay, so that's what he's zivukim. And Yaakov loves Yosef. And the Gemara says that was a mistake. And the Gemara says, La'olam ha'yeshana adam ben abanim. Never play a favorite one son over the others. Because as a result of a small amount of fabric that Yaakov gave to Yosef over the other brothers, the wheels were turned and they ended up going into exile in Egypt. All because he favored him with a certain amount of material. And therefore, parents have to be careful to never play favorites, even though it's not so easy. Because sometimes there's one kid, you love all your kids, but some kids are more likable than others. Sometimes kids are obnoxious. You get one kid who might be the tzaddical kid. Sometimes the kids you love all your kids. You never favor one kid over the other. That's something. Oh, please do me a favor. Hold all the questions for a few minutes. If you have questions, write them down. We'll take it. I want to just a few. There are a few more points here. Then we'll take the questions. So the brothers get upset. Vayiro echav kiyoso havaviyim mikol. Vayiro. Sorry. I skipped something vital over here. Now, take a look at the Ksones Pasim. He made a Ksones Pasim, top of page 200. Okay. He makes him this. How does the article translate it? Fine woolen tunic. You see, the article doesn't translate it as a cloak of many colors. And really, pasim means stripes, which one of the commentaries says, but it doesn't say it was a cloak of many colors. But it's a very fine. There's one opinion that it was such a fine type of silk that you could fold it up and hold it in your hand. It was such a fine material that you could actually hold it in a pas. The palm is called a pas yad. You could actually fold it up. That's why my raincoat over here, where is my raincoat? This raincoat, which I have, may as well do show and tell today. All right, here's my Xonis Pasim. Because the benefit of this raincoat, it's like one of these things that looks like it's got their priesthood that they wear. You ever see the guys? They're specially made for frum guys. It's got a big hood that goes over the hat. You ever seen these? Yeah. You ever seen these? That's what it is, special frum design. But the benefit of it is that it could actually roll up and fold up very, very, very small. And I actually put it in my briefcase when it's not too cold outside. And this is actually a Xonis Pasim. Now, it could very well be that this is what Yosef's looked like. Not. But this is, you see how small this could become. So Yosef's was a fine silk that went right into the palm of his hand. That's his Xonis Pasim. So take a look at Rashi. And this, gentlemen, is an important life lesson. Rashi says on the, it's on page 200, right column, third line from the top. 200, right column, third line from the top. Do you see where it says Mem Aleph? That's Umedrash Haggadah. That means he's quoting a Medrash. Al Shem Tsarosov. It's called Pasim because of the troubles that Yosef is going to encounter. Shenimkar li Potifar. He sold to Potifar, and the end is right, Potifar in Egypt. It's the pay. Villa Socharim is the merchants, that's a Samach. Villa Yishmaelim, that's the Yud. Villa Midyanim, and the Midianites. So you have pay, Samach, Yud, Mem is Pasim. Okay, that's what it got, the Xonis Pasim. It's not the order that it took place, because Potiphar was the last on the chain. But at the end of the day, it stands for, but so what? So that's what it, okay, it's very nice that that's what it stands for. But what's one thing got to do with the other? I mean, what's the connection here? What's the connection? Okay, that's what it stands for. What's the connection? So the plain meaning is, well, that was the cause of what happened. He ended up with all these people because of that cloak. Okay, there's a different lesson here. And this is a lesson that goes to jealousy. This is a lesson that goes to jealousy. I'm going to give you 3 examples. Would you like, there's some rich people who own helicopters. Would you like to own a helicopter? No? But if you're rich, it's not a problem, and there's never traffic in a helicopter. No traffic. And the day that the guy bought a helicopter, everybody was jealous. Except if his name was Kobe Bryant. Because if you know what happened in the end, then you realize, boy, am I happy I don't have a helicopter. That means jealousy. Wasn't it Steve Jobs? What happened to Steve Jobs? Didn't he go off a cliff? Who's the guy who's the guy who developed those things you stand on and drive around? What's that called? Segway, yeah. Who was the head of who did Segway? That wasn't Steve Jobs? Oh, never mind. Mr. Segway. Do you know what happened to Mr. Segway, who was very rich? He drove off a cliff on his own property on a Segway. You didn't know that, did you? You didn't know it. So Michael Jordan once said, people wonder, I'd like to be Michael Jordan for a day. Michael Jordan once said, but it isn't Michael Jordan for a day. It's Michael Jordan all the time, and you can't go anywhere without being hounded and without your security crew and everything else. I don't feel bad for Michael Jordan. I don't feel bad for anybody who's worth $3.2 billion. I don't feel bad for him, but there's a point he's making. If you were the brothers, you're jealous of Yosef? You're jealous of Yosef because you saw his Xonis Pasim? If you knew in advance what he's going to go through, would you still want it? You want to be sold? You want to be beaten? The Medrash says that they're not just selling him. They were beating him. They were hitting him. You sure you want that? It's a lesson in life in general. You see somebody's got something. Boy, I'm so jealous. Wow, a guy just came up with a brand new Lamborghini. Woo, a Lamborghini, right? I could get used to one of those, right? So this guy's driving his Lamborghini and 3 weeks later hits a tree at 150 miles an hour and gets killed. You still jealous of his Lamborghini? If you knew that, would you want it? So when it comes to jealousy, just keep it all. There's a whole picture here. We're always jealous of one aspect of something. That's unfair. You want the whole package? No, I don't want the whole package. Oh, no, I don't want that whole package. So the brothers, they're telling you, your jealousy, if you knew what was going to happen here, you sure you want that? So that's what you're jealous of? Look at how this plays out over here. It's like these two ladies are sitting on a plane. I heard this story years ago. Two ladies are sitting on a plane. And one of the ladies looks over, the other has got a beautiful diamond ring. The big diamond. She says to her, wow, that's a nice diamond. She says, yes, it is a nice diamond. She goes, no, I mean, it's a really nice diamond. She says, yes, but it's the famous Plotnik diamond. But it comes with a curse. She goes, really? He goes, yes, Mr. Plotnik. A lot to that story. And in life, you see, you're jealous of something. You know, what was the name of the guy who got arrested in jail? The guy, Rubashkin. Remember, Rubashkin he was arrested. He was in jail for 7 years, and Donald Trump pardoned him. And you know the story with Rubashkin? He was running the slaughtering house in Iowa. He was a from guy, and he was in jail. He was in federal penitentiary for 7 years, and then Donald Trump pardoned him. And he got out. And I remember when he got out, and there were crowds of people dancing and singing. And I'll tell you the truth, I was jealous. That guy's getting a lot of attention. This guy's very, very famous. Everybody knows him, and everybody's dancing and singing. And I stopped and thought to myself, would you want to be in a federal penitentiary for 7 years in order to get that attention? No, I'll pass. So what do you think? What are you jealous of? You jealous of that? Or you're jealous of the whole package? The whole package, no, I'll pass. That's what the Torah is teaching you. Very important life lesson, gentlemen. That's one of the best ways to fight jealousy. When you're jealous of something, think of all the other things that are going on with this person that you're not so jealous of. Okay. Take a look at Pasuk Dalet. Vayura Echav ki yosa hava v'yeh mikol Echav. The brothers saw that Yaakov loved him more than all the other brothers. Vayisnu also, they hated him. V'lo yachlu dabra l'sholem, they couldn't speak to him peacefully. So Rashi points out, well, that's a good thing. At least they weren't two-faced. They hated him, so they didn't talk to him at all. They didn't pretend that everything was okay. It wasn't echad b'pev, echad b'lev, that your mouth and your heart are not the same. You hated him, so he knew that you hated him. At least he knows where he stands. So you're at the breakfast table, nobody's talking to him. So Yosef knows where he stands. What triggered the hatred over here? So obviously that Yaakov gives him the cloak. But you see, the Parshas say it's very subtle. Because you notice the Pasuk says, they hated him mikol echav, from all the brothers, Yaakov loved him the most. So the brothers were thinking, let's see, why does he love Yosef? Because Yosef's the son of Rachel. And Rachel was the beloved wife. That they could live with. But then they realized, 1 second, he loves him more than all the brothers, which includes who? Binyamin. Whoa. But Binyamin comes from Rachel also. So why does he love Yosef the most? And Binyamin is even younger than Yosef. So why does he love Yosef the most? Oh, 1 second. So it must be it's not Rachel the factor. What is the factor? Because he's been snitching on us. That's why they hate him. The hatred is not because they realize he's been snitching. If Yaakov loves him, it's because of the bad report. Because if it was only Rachel, so he would love Binyamin as much as Yosef. But the Torah says, Mikol Echa, from all the brothers. Then Vayachim, Yosef now makes a mistake. See, the brothers are also making a mistake, and now Yosef's mistake. Vayachalam Yosef chalom vayaged le'echav, vayosifu od snoso. He has a dream, and he tells the brothers, hey guys, I had a dream. Right there was a mistake. Right there is a mistake. My wife came into the room the other day. When was it? On, I think, Friday morning. I was sitting in my room learning. My wife had just woke up, and she comes into and she says, oh, I had the funniest dream. So I just kind of looked at her, because you're supposed to say, what is it? Yeah, what is it? So she starts talking, and and she no, listen. I said, listen, This week's Parsha, somebody has a dream and gets a lot of trouble for it. Yosef had a dream and he got in trouble. So forget about it. Martin Luther King had a dream also. He got in bigger trouble. So nobody wants to hear about your dreams. So Yosef comes along and Yosef says, I had a dream. He hasn't even said the dream yet. And he hasn't even said the dream, and it says it added hatred. Why? We haven't even told him what the dream is. Wait till he gets to the dream. That's got to be a real winner. Why? Because a dream is generally shared. The Mefarshim say, who do you share your dreams with? If anybody ever, only your intimate friends. It's like Yosef's coming, guys, we're all good. Hey, you didn't get the message? You didn't get the message that we hate you? What are you playing chummy wummy over here, even though we've already tried to communicate to you that we hate you? He says, listen to the dream that I dreamt. You can imagine the look on the face of the brothers when he's saying this. We're binding sheaves out in the field. My stack of grain stood up. V'gam nitzava, and it stood up straight. And all of your stacks bowed down to mine. Can you imagine? Hey, he's getting all, and the brothers are just looking at him exactly like you're looking at me right now. Yosef's like, what happened? So what is it? So the brothers say, wait, you're going to rule over us? You're going to dominate us? They hate him even more. You see, what is it that triggers them off here? There's something bothering them. And the answer is that dreams are often a result of what you're thinking about during the day. It could be a result of what you eat. It could be a result of your thoughts. It could be a result of experiences, and often a combination of all three. That's why we put no emphasis on dreams nowadays. At one point, dreams could contain some sort of something about the future. We put no emphasis on dreams nowadays. But at the end of the day, the brothers are bothered by something here. What are they really bothered by? If you stop and think about it, they were shepherds. They weren't farmers. Why is Yosef dreaming about stalks of wheat? That's not something you experience or talk about there. These are all shepherds. That means you must have been dreaming about being a king. You must have walked around all day thinking about being a king. And since you're walking around thinking about being a king, that's why you have a dream that shows something about agricultural submission. But that has nothing to do with our life over here, so why would you even have a dream unless you're promoting that dream? It's your idea to be the king. That's why they hate him. That's why they hate him. Oh, 1 second. And by the way, the commentaries say that Yosef was trying to communicate them. You all have bundles of mitzvahs. A bundle is a bundle of mitzvahs. But I'm going to have one big mitzvah that is going to get your bundles of mitzvahs to submit to me. Oh. That means I have one bundle, going to do one mitzvah, which is going to make your mitzvahs as big as the mitzvahs are, but they're not going to compare. What's his one mitzvah? He's going to run away from Mrs. Potiphar. He's going to pass a test, which is the most grueling test any male has ever faced. And that mitzvah over there is his stalk of wheat, which the brothers have to submit to. Dang. Vayachalam od chalom acher. He has another dream. Vayasaper oso lechav. Now he has another dream and he tells it to his brothers. Pay attention carefully. The subtleties there are remarkable. Vayomer hine chalom chalamti chalom od. I have another dream. Just 1 second. I'm missing something over here. I'm missing, where is it? There's a double. I'll find it later. Yasapre also lecha vayomer hine chalom chalamti. What is it? Hine chalamti chalom od. Hine hashemesh ve'arech v'chadasar kochavim mishtachavim li. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars are bowing down to me. The sun, the moon, and the stars, that they're certainly not involved with. They're shepherds. Vayesaper el aviv el echav, he tells it to his father and his brothers. Vayigar bo aviv. His father scolds him. Yomer ma chalom hazeh asher chalamta. What kind of dream are you having? I mean, your mother and your brother's going to come down to you. Your mother's dead. How could your mother come and bow down to you? Your mother's dead. That means that Yaakov Avinu understands the sun and the moon represents the father and the mother, and 11 stars. Your mother's dead. Rashi points out, yeah, but he was raised by Bilhah. It's referring to Bilhah, who is the stepmother. Yaakov is trying to diffuse it. Yaakov is trying to play it down and say, come on, Yosef, what kind of dream is this? We all know. Yeah. But the brothers are watching. They're smart. They know what's going on here. Now look at the next pasuk. Vayikanu boechav, his brothers are jealous. Vayaviv shomar es hadavar. And his father kept track of it, because his father knew at a certain point it's going to come true. Anything bother you about this pasuk? Vayikanu boechav, vayaviv shomar es hadavar. Anything bothering about that? The last pasuk, Yud Aleph, last pasuk on page 200. Vayikanu boechav, his brothers were jealous. Aviv shomar es hadavar. Anything bother you about that? What do you say, Michael?
So I noticed that in the previous two.
No. Anything about this pasuk bothering you?
It says jealous, not hatred.
Yes, excellent. Here it says just the brothers were jealous. Earlier it said hatred. What happened to the hatred here? Why is there no hatred here, only jealousy? The answer is the sun and the moon represent Yaakov and Bilhah, right? Represents representation of your father. Yeah. You might, no matter who you are, you might walk around all day daydreaming about your brothers bowing down to you.
Oh.
But no one is a low enough person to think about his father and mother bowing down to him. Nobody would daydream about that. That means if you have a dream that the sun and moon are bowing down to you, that wasn't something you were thinking about. That means here they sense that there's a reality, that this is a premonition of something that's going to happen. This Yosef can't be blamed for. That means they understand that this is some sort of prophetic insight of something that's going to happen. We can't hate you for that. I'm jealous of you for that. We can't hate you for that. Now it's not your fault. Because the sun and the moon is obviously the father and the mother. The father is the sun, the mother is the moon, which reflects picks up the hashpa'ah, the energy, so brothers, I can imagine that you've been daydreaming about us bowing down to you. You know, when you're sitting in Shiur and you're thinking about your brothers bowing down to you. But nobody is going to go and think about the father bowing down to him. Nobody's that low. And if you are thinking about it, that means it's obviously precious. Somebody had a question. Go ahead. You had a question before. Alicia, you had a question. So you got. What do you got?
My question was, well, I've got another one. I've got two. The first one is, why were two dreams needed? Why not just one? Why not just the sun and the moon and the 11 stars?
Okay.
Why the sheaves as well?
The sheaves represents that he's going to be supporting them with produce. That when he becomes the king in Egypt, he is going to be supporting the family during the famine. That. Then there's going to be the idea of the submission of them bowing down to him. That one is they're bowing down. In other words, they're submitting to him because they need his material support. The other is that they're going to be bowing down in order to accept the authority of Yosef, which is going to allow for down the line in Egypt for that influence to keep the Jewish people strong while they're in the exile. That's one of the reasons why the dreams have to come true, because it's the only way the Jews are going to stay strong in Egypt. But that we're going to get to later on when we get to when they go down to Egypt. What's the other question?
The other question was in the beginning, why does it choose to say Israel instead of Yaakov?
That I can't answer. The general rule for that is that when he's in a heightened state, it's Yisrael. When he's in a lower state, it's Yaakov. But then in each situation, you need to figure out why they're a heightened state or lower state. That I don't have a good answer for that. I haven't figured out the pattern. I tried once tracing the pattern, but I didn't figure out in each case why it's. Right now, he's in a heightened state because he's sitting in tranquility. But you see, it starts with Yaakov. The puzzle starts with Yaakov, then turns to Yisrael. I don't know. Yes, Alicia.
If Yosef grew up with Rachel, and Rachel Rachel died during the birth of
Binyamin.
Meaning Binyamin don't really get to know who Rachel is.
Correct.
Yaakov is more obligated to show Yosef more love because he just went from Ima
To Binyamin. He's obligated to show Binyamin more love.
Wow, Binyamin didn't even know who Rachel was.
So which one, you said obligated. Which one is he obligated?
Him and Yosef share a better connection.
That may be. That may be. But you said the word obligated. Do you mean obligated or do you mean what would naturally be? Okay, so you're probably right, what would naturally be, but the brothers didn't read it that way. I didn't say obligated, you did.
So who would he be obligated to?
He's not obligated to any, he's obligated to love everybody the same. Michael, thank you very much.